A couple of reminders. Of course, we have our holiday mini catalog, which is going very well. People are loving the fabulous holiday products in there. Crafters are always the bunch that likes to think ahead to holidays, so we have lots to offer you right now. In addition, we have Celebration happening. Celebration is typically in the winter, and it's always our biggest promotion of the year. And for the first time ever, Stampin' Up! Has given us a second celebration. I'm calling it the Summer Celebration. August and September, you can earn free products, free exclusive products from our celebration brochure. With qualifying purchases, you can earn a special exclusive stamp set for hosts only when you have sales of $300 or more, in addition to the regular Stampin' rewards you get with hosting a party. And my dear friend and customer Joyce held one, let's see, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We closed it out early last week, I think. But Joyce received over $120 in Stampin' rewards to use towards free product. And she also earned a half price item just by having a virtual party. It's super easy. All you have to do is invite people to the virtual party. I take care of all the rest. You don't even have to clean your house. So it's a lot of fun and a great way to get awesome products. And of course, the very best deal is our joining offer. You can purchase our starter kit, or what I call the Try It Kit. You don't have to build a business. You don't have to have classes or events if you don't want to. There's no pressure. Many of my team members are what I call happy discount shoppers and have been around enjoying the discount for quite a long time. But I think the reason they stay on so long, even as happy discount shoppers, is for the friendship, the camaraderie, the sharing. It's nice to belong to a community of people with similar interests as you. And then, of course, if you want to join to build a business or a little side gig or extra income, I'm happy to help you with that as well. So today we are going to do some scrapbook pages, scrapbook layouts. And these are super easy. One thing that I have found with scrapbooking and memory keeping is if I have some what I call pre-made pages at the ready, I am more apt to print off some of my photos and get them in the pages. Your photos and your layout don't have to match perfectly. It just always seems to work out. So I love when I'm using some of our Stampin' Up! Products, an idea for scrapbook pages pops into my head because I'm likely to do it immediately, whip those out, and then I have them on hand when I'm ready to print out the pages, even if it's something, print out the photos for those pages, even if it's something that I know is coming in the future. So one thing in my family, and maybe in yours, we like to bake. I have great memories of baking with my mom and my sisters. My mom was fabulous at making cookies, and that's when I like to bake. And I have done it many, many, many years with my own daughters since they were very young. And now my children are adults, 24 and 30. I should say almost, what are they? Almost 25 and almost 30. And we still love to bake together. So let me flip my camera around and we'll get started making some fabulous, fun scrapbook pages. While I'm doing that, if you would be so kind as to share this video, I would appreciate it very much. It's always tricky when I do scrapbook layouts on a Facebook Live because they take up lots of space, right? This is going to be super easy. This is quick scrapbooking, as I call it, or And what you'll find is I'm going to use lots of pieces and parts, as you can see right here. I pre-die cut a lot of the various images from my wonderful, let me pull some of this out so you can see, from this wonderful Gingerbread and Peppermint Designer Series paper. You can see there's lots of images that you can die cut, but then there's also fabulous patterns. So let me tell you, and this is the bundle. I am going to be using a couple of the sentiments, maybe some of the stamping images, but definitely some of the sentiments. And I'll show you how I can incorporate those sentiments really well into the scrapbook pages. And even if you're not a scrapbooker, many of the tips and ideas you'll pick up here are easily converted to your cards, or maybe your collage making, things like that. So the colors that we're using, or I should say come with the product suite, are cinnamon cider, real red, old olive, and white. So a really basic traditional color scheme for this suite. Now, all of these have been die cut from Designer Series paper, even these little peppermints. You can see the different shapes of dies, and there are even some circles that cut out the peppermints. And I love this one in particular because it allows me to cut out 3 different size peppermints from this DSP all at once. Okay, I'm deciding if I should go with red as a background or cinnamon cider and add red and old olive accents. It could really go either way, whatever is your preference. I'm actually going to go with the cinnamon cider for my backgrounds, for my main page, and then I'm going to decorate with the real red and old olive. Now you'll see that some of these images I did not have dies for, but they were super easy to fussy cut. So when I'm doing something like this, I have a vision in my head, but it's not exact, or some inspiration that I want to put to paper. I like to get all of my little pieces and parts put together, and typically I'll start with a 2-page layout, but oftentimes it becomes 4 pages or something more, or I might do a 2-page spread and then it becomes a collage. I might make a collage with extra pieces, something like that. But now I'm trying to decide, do I really want cinnamon cider as the background? How about if you help me with this? You tell me what we should use for the background color. Should we use cinnamon cider, real red, or old olive? Cinnamon cider, real red, or old olive. This is going to be the base. These are going to be the pages that we're going to build everything else on. Beth Schuster says, go with the red. And she's the first one to respond, so I'm going to do that. And then we'll accent with the, oh, now I got others saying cinnamon ciders with the other 2 as accents. Gosh, you guys make it hard. Come on. And more say red. I don't know what to do now. You know, I am changing my mind. Sorry, Beth. But I think any of them would work. So if you do this, I want to see what you choose to do. So I'm going to stick with my original plan. and go with cinnamon cider, and then I'm going to accent with reds and greens. Now, typically, when I'm scrapbooking, it's hard to say, Sharon says it's hard to say without knowing what I'm putting on it. I'm going to decorate my pages with all these pieces, with all these die cuts. What I like to do is start out with some basic shapes that I might mount my cards on or my photos on. So I'm going to do just that right now. And most of the time I print my photos to be 4x6. So I'm actually going to, and I think if you cut cardstocks, it also maximizes, maximizes your cardstock. You aren't going to get as much waste. So what I like to do is cut some pieces that are 4x6. And then a lot of times I'll go a step further and cut some that are 4x4. And then I can also do some punching if I like. Maybe punch some circles or die cut some stars or whatever would fit. So I have these to play around with. I'm not necessarily going to use them all, but if I don't use them on this project, I will use them on something else. The other thing I like to do is to create some kind of border to kind of anchor things, and I might do it along each side. I might do it all the way across the top or across the bottom. For this, I'm going to go along each side. And so I'm just going to choose, I've got all kinds of fun patterns. I'm going to choose something from my DSP, right? When you work with DSP, it just makes it so simple and easy to use. Oh, Kathy, that makes me laugh. We'll have to wear something that color coordinates with our pages. Isn't that funny? Oh yes, we will do that. We will do that. That makes me laugh that you thought of that. So I'm just going to cut this designer series paper. Ironically, I'm not even measuring. I'm just cutting right down the middle of these main strips. And we know this DSP is 6x6, so each strip is 6 inches long, which is exactly what I need to go from top to bottom of my pages. Whoops. And I'm using, even keeping these end pieces, because I might use these for something later. Good little pattern pieces. All right, so these pieces actually measure 1 1/4 inches when I've got them all cut out. They're 1 1/4 inches wide. I want to back those on some real red cardstock, just like that. So I'll need 2 of these strips. So I'm measuring or cutting these 1 1/2 inches by 12 inches. And by the way, when you're scrapbooking, or when I'm scrapbooking, I prefer to use the 12 by 12 cardstock because I feel I get less waste when I'm making scrapbook pages based on my basic cuts that I use. Now I'm going to take this one step further, and let's see, do I have a white? I'm going to use a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm going to cut these, I want a real narrow strip, so I should say a narrow border after the red. So the red was 1.5 inches wide. I'm cutting this 1 5/8 inches. Again, you can make these any width you want, just whatever is your preference. And by the way, I mentioned that I cut these like 4 by 6. Then I will cut my photos down just a little bit so that I have a red or a green or whatever color border behind the photo. I just find it's more economical to cut my cardstock this way and cut my photos down just a little bit. So let me go ahead and put my strips together first. So I'm putting my 1.5 inch real red strips onto my 1 5/8 inch basic white strips. And most of you that have been working with me for a while know I kind of like to do things, what I call assembly line style, meaning for this project, if I have 2 sets of these strips, I'm going to want to work on both of them at the same time. And the multi-purpose glue gives me a little bit of time to play with my strips. I've got a little bit of glue there. I'm going to get that off with my adhesive eraser. And now I'm going to add those green strips that I cut from my designer series paper. Good morning to everybody. I see lots of familiar names. Some I haven't seen in a while, so I'm glad you're here. For any of you, is this your first time watching Stampin' Piece with Mary Knabe? Anybody? First time? Or you new? New to me? I was remarking to somebody the other day that it's funny how, especially since pandemic, because after pandemic started, I started going live 3 times a week instead of my 1 a week. And let's see how this matches up. And that some of these people, some of you, I see your names so often, and we banter back and forth, and we talk and we share and comment, and it gets to the point where I feel like I know you in person, and yet I think we've never met in person, but you've developed those friendships and relationships, and you know how easy that is to do with people who have similar interests as you. So thank you. Even though we may not have met in person ever, I do feel like I just have made tremendous friends in this community of stampers and paper crafters, scrapbookers. So thank you. And I hope you feel the same way. I really do. All right, so those are my borders. And I'm going to go ahead and put these on the left and right sides of my 2-page spread. How many of you are avid scrapbookers? I have to be honest and say I don't scrapbook nearly as much as I would like to. My Stampin' piece business keeps me super busy, which is awesome. That's a great problem to have. It's not really a problem, because I love what I do, but keeps me super busy and not able to scrapbook and do as many of those project things for myself. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could schedule maybe one afternoon every other week, or a certain day a month, or a weekend a month, where I just play and scrapbook for myself. So I need to work on that. You know how it is, if you schedule something, you write it down, you schedule it, it typically happens, but if you don't, it doesn't happen. So that's what I'm working on doing. All right, so then my next step is going to be, I'm just going to lay out some of these different pieces. Now this is a super easy, super fast, super basic layout, right? Pat says, just wait till you have grandchildren. Honestly, my own kids don't. We have school scrapbooks, and we have scrapbooks from family trips, things like that. I need to finish scrapping my Stampin' Up! Incentive trips, because my girls have been on a lot of those with me. But I tell everybody, yep, I will, once I have grandchildren, I will start scrapbooks for them. So I'm thinking kind of like this, and maybe I'll use these for something later. But again, this is just a super easy, super basic scrapbook layout, because I find those are really ones that give me most joy and keep me productive. You can even play around with these. Do you want some up, some down, that sort of thing? And when I kind of have these in place the way I want them, then I start adding the embellishing pieces that I want to use. Oh, and before I do that, I want to do a little stamping, because there are two sentiments I want to use to help with the journaling part. And, you know, I'm going to say this too. A lot of people tell me I hate my own handwriting, and they'll even have other people do their journaling for them, do the writing of it. They might come up with the words, but they have somebody else write, or they will type it up and print it. As somebody who at 56 is without both of her parents, my dad died 31 years ago, my mom almost 5 years ago. I have things with my parents' signature. I have letters they wrote to me in college, books they gave me where they signed the front. And honestly, seeing their handwriting is such a treasure. So please, 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 write your own journaling. Don't let somebody else do it for you, and don't print it out. Your handwriting makes a difference to the people who love you and care about you. So on this one, I'm going to stamp the sentiment in real red. It says, sending you peppermint kisses. Now, since this is for a scrapbook page and not a sentiment or card or something that I'm going to mail, I'm going to cut off, I'm just going to use my paper snips. You could even use your paper cutter if you want, but I'm trusting myself with the paper snips. I'm just going to cut off the sending you part. And now I have like a little title, Peppermint Kisses, and this will be something fun. Let's see how I cut this. This is a fun way to add a title to one of your photographs. And I, as I told you earlier, had previously cut some of these little peppermints from the designer series paper. So I'm going to lay them out just like that. I'm not adhering anything yet, and we'll talk more about why that is as we go along. The other one I wanted to use was You're the Icing to My Gingerbread. And I think that's just fun too, and definitely works on a scrapbook page. So let's see if I remember correctly. That's a 1-inch strip I made. So, you know, just because we oftentimes are doing card making with our Stampin' Up! Products, don't think that the sentiments in your stamp set can't be used for your scrapbooking, because oftentimes they can be. I'm also going to stamp this in real red. Oops, I wanted to cut that down to 1 inch. I cut the length, but not the width, what I wanted. So again, stamping with real red. And I've left a nice bit on each end, and I did that so I can add some embellishments. Oh, Pat, you got me. Okay, I got it. I will move these up a bit because I'm not fully in the screen. Sorry about that. Give me a second here to move all these bits and pieces, and I will be happy to accommodate you. Thank you. Is that better? Yes, okay. Thank you, Pat, for that reminder. Again, I'm just going to punch the ends. And once again, I have a nice little title or caption that I can use on one of my pieces. I'll scoot over just a little bit more this way too. How's that? I told you it's so hard getting it all in the frame. Now I'm going to work with a bunch of these other die cuts that I have. Oh, I like this one, with the little mittens. So up here I'm using You're the Icing to My Gingerbread. So I want to use some of these fun cookie shapes. I like the ones with lots of color too, little pops of color all around. So you can see what I'm doing is simple, it's basic, but it's going to make fabulous pages. I don't want to go crazy with too much, but we'll see how it all comes together. And I'm going to give you a tip on adhering all these things too, so stay tuned for that. I love those snowflakes. There's so many good pieces here. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for now. Still want to get a Christmas tree in here. Now, when it's time to adhere everything, this is where people get kind of nervous and they're like, oh, Mary, that's the hardest part, get everything straight, evenly spaced, that sort of thing. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips. The baking utensils from the cooking bundle, great idea. I love that idea, adding some of those as well. So what I like to do is I have everything in place approximately. So then I just kind of measure, okay, this is pretty close to a 3/4 inch border across. So I just put that in place. I'm going to take some of my adhesive and watch what I do. And I look too at my, are my spaces on either side pretty even, that sort of thing. And I can leave all my little, oops, I pushed too high. So just use a ruler or a straight edge of some sort. And this is your guide to getting these pieces on straight and evenly spaced. You can see I have a 3/4 inch border at the top. You make your border whatever you want it to be. And then what I'll do is I slide off those accent pieces. I'm going to hold my ruler and my cardstock in place, lift this up, and I'm putting just a tiny bit of adhesive behind each. And then carefully move over to the next one. Do the same thing, holding that ruler and the cardstock in place. Just lift up part of it and adhere it down. The reason I only do a little bit at once underneath, I put two little, where's a piece of scrap paper? I put two little pieces of adhesive behind it, like that. That's it. Because I want to be able to pick it up and move it if I need to, okay? Lisa Sharkey, this came from, I believe, Joann Fabrics. It's a kind of ruler that is used a lot in quilting. They have many different sizes, some just long and narrow, some about this size. And I like this because when I'm, for example, casing a card, I can lay it right over the top of the card and measure both the height and the width of different pieces. But then my second use for it is for the scrapbooking as well. Now, when I'm ready to set this other piece, I want it lined up. It doesn't have to be. You might want yours in the middle, but I'm going to line mine up with that real red piece atop. I want the side, the left side of that real red piece and the side of my old olive piece to line up together. If I can get it. Just about like that. And you can decide, do you want it how you want it? I'm going to kind of do the same amount of matting there, and I have approximately 3/4 inch at the bottom. So now I've got that in place. I'm going to do the same thing. Just 2 little pieces of adhesive to hold that there for me. That way I can do any tweaking at the end. Now let's go ahead and put some of these on. And I like to put these accent pieces on with dimensionals. And the reason for that is dimensionals are easy to pull up. If I decide later when I'm adding my photos, I want them in things in a different place, I can do that. The other reason I like to use dimensionals is because sometimes, deciding if I really want it that high, because a lot of times I like to tuck my photos under all these accent pieces. Let me trim some of these. And really, I don't use an awful lot of dimensionals on one piece. Really, just one in the middle works for me. Hi there, Patty Schuler. I haven't seen you for a while. I'm so happy you're here. Yes, Barb, that ruler is super handy. I use it pretty much every day that I'm in my craft room. Where's my, I'm going to put a little Christmas tree. Ooh, I think, what do you think of that? I kind of like that. So again, just using maybe one dimensional in the center means that no matter where I put these embellishing pieces, I'll be able to tuck photos underneath. So Patty, I've cut these pieces 4 by 6. I've cut them 4 by 6 inches because I typically print my photos to be 4 by 6. Almost, I would say 98% of my photos I print 4 by 6. And I will just trim my photos down a little bit, maybe to 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, maybe even smaller than that if I want a larger border here. I'll show you that in a minute, exactly what I mean. I want to, but look how easy this is, and look how quickly I'm doing it. Now, granted, I did, oops, I have one on there. I did die cut a lot of these before I went live with you. For the sake of time, you don't need to see me just die cutting and die cutting and die cutting. We have more important things to get to, like putting things together, right? But you can see now I can put my photo there and it just tucks under. And so that way, these pieces are accenting your photos also, not just your, your pages exactly. They kind of all blend into one. They all kind of work together. All right, let's do the opposite page now. I'm going to do something different with this. Instead of using another 4 by 6 piece, I'm going to cut this in half. Because sometimes we cut our photos down so much. So now I can use 2 3 by 4 photos or 4 by 3. They can go either direction. I think I'm going to go this way. Now I want my 2 old olive pieces here. Yes, who just wrote that? Kathy, yes. I would start out cutting my cardstock 6-inch, 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, but I ended up wasting so much cardstock. So for me, cutting 4 by 6 is a much better alternative. I would rather cut my photos down and waste less cardstock, because then we have more cardstock for crafting, right? Okay, and I think my sentiment just fell. I felt something fall on my lap. So I'll get that in a moment. But again, I want my border here on this page to also be 3/4 inch like it is on my left page. So I'm just going to use my ruler for that. The other parts I'll just eyeball. I think I got it pretty close there. Again, I'm holding that in place, just lifting this up and putting a little bit of adhesive. And I know what some of you are thinking, Mary, that's not enough adhesive to hold long term. Maybe not, but till I get everything in place, it's just fine. So you can always add more adhesive, but until I know I have things exactly where I placed exactly where I want them, this little bit works well for me. There we go. I think I'll do something like this. And these are the same width as the cardstock pieces above. So I want to line those up. Again, you don't have to, but that's what I'm choosing to do right now. And you can see there's space to journal. You can journal right on the page, or you can journal on a piece of cardstock and then stick it down, whatever your preference is. But like I said earlier, please, please, please do it in your own handwriting. I agree with you, Barb. I'm not sure if you go by Barb or Barbara. But yes, people want to see your own handwriting. It means so much. And it honestly, it means, first of all, you're giving a piece of your heart. But when you're gone, it will mean more to people than you could possibly imagine. And like I said, I have lost friends, and both my parents are gone, cousins. And when I see something in their handwriting, it just really lifts my spirits. It's a wonderful thing. Again, I'm putting all of these little accent pieces on dimensionals so that I can tuck photos or a little journaling piece underneath them, and it just kind of grounds everything, connects everything together, and makes it more fun. I'll put these on. How many of you have the gingerbread and peppermint sweet? Hi there, Joan from Washington State. So happy you jumped on with us. Isn't that funny? I guess either way this works. I feel like I could use some more peppermints here because it says the peppermint kisses, so let me grab some of those that I already had die cut. Oh, here's some of the red and green ones too. Well, I know I had more in the 3 sizes, but not sure what happened. Okay. So let me do this. Lisa, you have the suite. Do I ever emboss my mats? Are you talking about dry embossing with embossing folders? I have done that on occasion. Just again, adds a little more interest, a little more detail. I don't know if I want that one there. Julie, I love that comment. She says, this is so cute. I see so many cards on these pages. So in other words, what Julie is saying, I believe, is that she, by looking at these two-page spread, these 2 scrapbook pages, she's saying she is getting inspiration for cards. And I love hearing that. Now, something I might do here is maybe punch a circle, or I can always add more shapes. I might punch a circle and do some journaling there, or make a little title, maybe put the date. I think dates are super important too. To me, your own handwriting and the dates and the people are most important. Okay, we can spend a lot of time decorating and adding all kinds of stuff and making them look wow, but really what it comes down to is what? The memories made. So we want to remember the people, and we want them to remember us, so we include our own handwriting. And remember, really, when you think about it, scrapbooking is sort of like passing on a legacy, passing on what means so much to each of us. I'm thinking I might want this one down here instead. All right. Now, if you're somebody that says, Mary, this looks a little bit busy to me, you just put less stuff on, right? Put less stuff on. If you think, oh, I want to jazz it up even more, then you go ahead and do that as well. But as you can see, my whole point of sharing this with you is that I wanted you to see this is a very, very simple, basic layout, okay? And you can dress it up or you can simple it down, but either way it works. Another thing to consider is, and I typically do this, if I'm not adding embellishments, I could have easily turned my pages and gotten a whole different look. This time I just would have had all of my sentiments and, you know, the extras turn the right direction. You could also do it this way. And I've even done it where I have borders in the middle. So consider that. So your first steps when you're doing, no, I've got it upside down. So your first steps when you're doing any borders, and again, this is just the way I do it, but I have found it to be quick and easy and very manageable for me when I'm making scrapbook layouts. Start with some kind of border, sides, the center, top or bottom. And when I say that, that could even be your title. You might die cut letters. You know, I thought, oh, for something like this, Sweet Memories would be a great title. Maybe die cut the letters and put them across the bottom or across the top or along one side. But either way, kind of start with a border and then start with just some basic shapes that you're going to add photos to, perhaps even some journaling. I might put a piece of white on here and journal there or here, but kind of think that in your head. Journaling is always the last thing I do on my pages. I'm not sure about you, but for me, it's always the journaling comes last. And then you add your extra pieces. But while you have your borders and your main pages, you can play around with them and turn them different directions and see what you like. And really, I could repeat the same layout. I'm talking without all the extras, but repeat the same layout and just turning those different directions. I could have 4 2-page spreads. Super easy, right? Another way to change them up, use the same layout, but change them up, is change up some of the colors or change up the DSP you use along the sides or whatever your border might be. And lastly, you can always bling it up by adding some ribbon. Sometimes I'll use ribbon as my borders. Sometimes I'll add a little ribbon to border my mats for my photos. And then lastly, you can add a little bling wherever you like. Here's a bunch of bling I have right here. Maybe I will add a little. The gingerbread and peppermint acrylic shapes might be something fun that you want to add to some of these. Ooh, here's fun. Look at that. Do something like that. Ooh, I think I'm going to do that. That looks fun. Let me find another one that goes with it. And when I use these acrylic shapes, I prefer, because most of them a mini glue dot is going to be too big, and I don't like my adhesive showing. So I'm just going to use a dot, if I can squeeze with this hand. Come on. A dot of multi-purpose glue. That was a little big, but I think I'll be okay. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just like that. Oh, I want to put something there too. How about, oh, those are fun. Oh, I think I'll use those. Okay, those are going to be kind of tricky to glue down. But I think what I'll do is just dab some multi-purpose glue there and then lay it where I want. And of course, it'll take a little time for these acrylic pieces to dry. fine tip glue might also be a good choice if you have some of that. And like I said, you could use mini glue dots. It's just that they will show. Pat is asking, many of you have been asking about my hand. I hate to say it, but it can be fine. And then I do something, using scissors is hard. Trying to pick something up this motion is painful. So I am icing it and haven't called the doctor, but kind of just trying to nurse it along. And just when I think it's better, then I do something, sometimes holding a cup or coffee cup, but I'm working with it. I'm working with it. Barb, I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your sister. I have lost aunts, uncles, and cousins to brain tumors. That's a really, really difficult thing. Cancer of any kind is so hard. But you're right. You just cherish those cards and letters, the things that they sent to you, and they have their handwriting and their signatures. It just means so much. In fact, I have a couple things from my parents. I don't know if this is weird or not, but I'm thinking I would like to do this. I have a couple of things from my parents with their signatures on, and I thought I would just like to put them in a little frame and put them out just as a reminder about the love they shared with me. Yes, I really should get a brace, so maybe I'll make a trip to the pharmacy to do that today. All right, this is all I have for you. I hope you have enjoyed this scrapbook making demonstration, or scrapbook page making demonstration, and I hope that you will consider doing some memory keeping of your own. And if you aren't into scrapbooking and memory keeping, I hope, like Julie, you have been inspired to make some cards by what you have seen here.